What's up, guys? I'm Chris Spags here, back to another Four Corners video for today's 15-game MLB main slate, courtesy of Osmo.com. 15 games means every team in Major League Baseball should be playing today, and that means there's going to be a lot of hitting opportunity in the air, so you know what that means if you're a regular viewer of the Four Corners. We're giving away a free month of an Osmo Plus membership. All you have to do, like this video, comment your double dong pick down below. With all these players available, somebody's going to get it done today, and I'm confident one of you guys can guess it correctly down below. So like the video, comment your double dong pick, the guy you think is going to hit 2 home runs today. If you're correct, you win a free month of an Osmo Plus membership. But for now, on to our first corner of today's slate, the top pitching in Madison Bumgarner going against Colorado should be the number 1 owned pitcher today in most places. Bumgarner gets 3.3 implied runs against him, and he's expected to be the number 1 owned pitcher on DraftKings with 34% and Yahoo with 40%, while he'll be number 2 on FanDuel with 18% ownership. Bumgarner is priced reasonably, and the pitcher's park should be a plus for him, but his 8.7 Ks per night are no sure thing going against the Colorado team, who has 4 of their expected top 5 hitters under league average in strikeouts versus left-hand pitching. Drew Pomeranz was able to get it done yesterday, but he's shown a lot more strikeout upside from a tournament perspective than Bumgarner has. I think I'm more inclined to go away from Bumgarner today, even though the price is a decent value. Max Scherzer at Miami should also find some popularity today with 2.8 implied runs against him, which are a slate low. Scherzer will be number 1 owned on FanDuel with 20%, and he'll be tied for that number 1 ownership on Yahoo with 40%, while he'll be number 3 on DraftKings with 28% ownership. The premium price for Scherzer may be tough to pay on a slate full of high-priced hitters, while Miami has been decent versus right-hand pitching, with 4 hitters in their projected lineup over a 114 WRC+, as well as an under-league average 22.1% K rate. Miami is still not a good team, and Scherzer is definitely a good pitcher, but I think the spot may be a little bit better looking on paper than it actually is with how the changes have gone for Miami's lineup. They've added some guys in there, they're getting better overall. I think the spot's not as much of a lock as it seems to be, and I'm more inclined to match the field on DK ownership than I would be to go crazy with it. And Jack Flaherty versus Oakland should also find some ownership today with 3.8 implied runs against him. Flaherty's going to be the number 2 owned on DraftKings with 32% expected ownership, but he's also expected to have decent ownership elsewhere, just not quite as much as the other guys. A solid price for Flaherty works with this 9.9 Ks per 9 this year in a park that benefits pitchers, but Oakland's 20.8% K rate versus right-hand pitching in 2019 isn't a perfect spot to target, especially given that their projected lineup also has a solid 184 ISO. Flaherty's been a solid pitcher on the year, but this is not a sure thing spot. I think I'm more inclined overall to take some dice rolls with other pitchers today than go with a lot of the chalky ownership that we're expected today. On to our next corner, the top stacks, and a Cubs stack versus Max Fried should be popular again today with 6.2 implied runs for them. More 12 miles per hour winds blowing out at Wrigley means solid ownership expected for the Cubs after they were a very chalk team yesterday. Max Fried keeps the ball down well with a 22% fly ball rate, and he could cause issues for the lefty Cubs hitters with his 11.2 Ks per 9 to that side of the plate. But a righty mini stack with Javi Baez, Wilson Contreras, and Chris Bryant, all of them over a 124 WRC+ versus left-hand pitching, could be interesting and less owned than the overall Cubs stack seems to be. I don't hate a Cubs stack with the wind blowing in their favor, but Fried has been good enough on the year where I think he can still limit production despite that advantage that the Cubs are going to have. I'm more inclined for mini stacks and one-offs, one guy in particular I'll talk about later in the video. A Philly stack versus Walker Lockett should also be popular today with 5.8 implied runs for them. Decent prices for Philly should result in ownership, with Lockett exceedingly bad so far versus lefties with a 3.12 whip and 9.4 xFIP in a limited Major League Baseball sample size thus far. Philly currently projects to be highly owned and could get even higher throughout the day, so even though it's a nice spot, it's one that could require some pivots or mini stacks to avoid being too chalky. Philly stacks ownership should be high enough that I think you would want to pair them with a lower owned pitcher. If you're going with a chalk pitcher, I think you may want to look elsewhere for Philly, or perhaps try to find lower owned combinations of players to differentiate your lineup. And a Yankee stack versus Clayton Richard should also be popular today with 6.5 implied runs for them. Richard has kept the ball down well with a 23.3% fly ball rate, but he's unable to miss bats with just 5 Ks per 9 and a 6% swing strike rate so far this year. The Yankees are interesting due to some stack flexibility, with Didi Gregorius' 92 WRC+ versus left-hand pitching the worst in their projected lineup, and the ownership is expected mostly to go heavily towards Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton. It's a solid spot overall for the Yankees, and there are ways to differentiate your lineup by not including either Judge or Stanton. I think there's a lot of reasons to go to the Yankees today, with Richard not showing a lot in terms of limiting production. On to our next corner, the lower owned options on today's slate, and the Boston stack versus Carson Fulmer should be one of those teams. Boston gets 6.7 implied runs, which is a slate high, and Fulmer as the opener allows a 1.9 whip and a 6.6 xFIP, with a nifty White Sox bullpen behind them who has a 4.8 xFIP as well. The weather in Boston is a concern, and I would watch that closely as we get closer to lock. The spot currently looks under-owned, and the weather plus tough prices should keep that ownership down despite a strong spot for Boston. Because of all the factors keeping ownership down for Boston, I think it's interesting to go to them as long as you're comfortable with the weather risk that's going on right there in Boston's park. And a guy we talked about a lot recently on Live Before Lock, Adbert Alzolay, also interests me despite 5.8 implied runs against him. The wind blowing out at Wrigley is scary, but Alzolay is reasonably priced with a strong 11.3 K per 9 thus far in a small Major League Baseball sample size. Alzolay graded out well in the minors, and he had 5 strikeouts at 4 innings pitched in his debut. And though the Atlanta lineup can cause trouble with a 185 ISO versus right-hand pitching, Alzolay is at next to to no ownership and is a boomer bust play given his high fly ball rate, but equally high strikeout rates. Alzolay is not necessarily somebody to load up on, but the spot looks like a decent one here at no ownership. Doesn't take a lot to get above the field on him, and he does have a lot of strikeout upside. A San Diego stack versus the combined efforts of Jimmy Yacobonis and Josh Rogers also interests me, with 6 implied runs for them. Both the opener Yacobonis and the projected long reliever Rogers are brutal, with the Baltimore bullpen also bad, allowing 9.7 hits per 9 and a 4.6% home run rate. In a top power park, San Diego's 204 ISO versus left-hand pitching could be a nightmare versus Rogers, and their 205 ISO versus right-hand pitching could be just as problematic regardless of the matchup that Baltimore tries to pull out of their bullpen. Parts of San Diego's lineup are priced up, but this is a really strong spot for them going against Baltimore's bullpen, who really should offer no resistance at all to San Diego's power-heavy approach. And Chichi Gonzalez at San Francisco also interests me, with 4.2 implied runs against him. Chichi hasn't pitched in Major League Baseball for 3 years, and he has iffy strikeout stuff with just 8.2 Ks per 9 in AAA this year, but San Francisco's 23.6% K rate versus right-hand pitching in a pitcher's park could make Chichi useful value. Obviously, Chichi Gonzalez isn't quite John Gray from yesterday, but it's a similarly good spot if Chichi comes out with some oomph and a big opportunity for him. I'm willing to take some dart tosses at a slate of this size, and Chichi is one of those guys whose value could open up some opportunity to afford a lot more higher priced bats. Now onto our last corner of the one-offs, and Franmil Reyes going against the combination of Jimmy Yacobonis and Josh Rogers, a guy I like a lot. Reyes could feast versus the left-handed pitcher and Rogers in particular with a 246 ISO, but his reasonable price makes him a night addition or pivot from the higher priced San Diego bats. I like the whole stack a lot, but if you can't afford all of them, I think banking on a cheaper guy like Franmil Reyes could be a situation that gets you the value of the San Diego opportunity without as much exposure to the entire lineup. Shohei Ohtani versus Tyler Mahle is also a one-off who interests me, with Mahle allowing a 1.8 whip and 5.9% on run rate to lefties, which can be taken advantage of by Ohtani in a positive hitting park. And he's also bringing a 308 ISO and a 161 WRC plus versus right-hand pitching. Ohtani's prices come down a bit, and without much ownership expected on him, I think it could be an interesting one-off play that could have a really big ceiling day versus a guy Mahle. It's really not that good versus lefties. And Chris Bryant versus Max Fried would be the one-off Cub I like the most. Bryant's 388 ISO and 192 WRC plus versus left-hand pitching could mean production in the wind-aided Wrigley, with Fried possibly able to limit the full stacks production thanks to his 1.3 whip and 3.5 xFIP. Again, I really don't think Fried is that bad of a pitcher, but Bryant's good enough versus lefties that I think going with him as a one-off or as part of a mini stack of some of those righties could be a good situation to get that Cubs production without having full exposure to a chalky Cubs stack. So there are my thoughts on today's slate. So that means right now is the time for you to like this video, comment your double dong pick down below. If you guess correctly, the guy is going to hit 2 home runs today, you'll be entered to win that free month of an Awesemo Plus membership. So right now, like the video and comment your double dong pick down below. And if you don't want to wait for it, use that promo code SWITCH and HEDGE to get half off the first month or week of any Awesemo Plus membership. You can get all the ownership projections, the regular projections that you can just plug right into Fantasy Cruncher, the deep dive column every day, the top stacks tool, the lineup builder, a lot of different things that'll help you make better MLB DFS lineups. So use that promo code SWITCH and HEDGE for half off your first month or week of any Awesemo Plus membership. Go follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Chris Spags. I'm here for you guys every day. I'm here if you guys have any questions as well. So go ahead, follow me on there, tweet me anything you want to know or anything you're thinking about. Of course, I'd love to hear from you guys. So go ahead, go follow me on both those platforms at Chris Spags right now. I'll be back tomorrow with another Four Corners video. So thank you guys for watching. Hit that like button, of course, on the way out, and good luck, guys.